Lurian has written in, and he said to us on the last episode, but he's going to keep it short. Turns out he's gone Super Saiyan on this thing. He's gone Kaioken times 100 because it is by far the longest question we've ever had submitted to the show. Audience, bear with me while I read through this gargantuan piece of mail. With ABK now practically getting approved in the UK, I ask, was it worth it? What a change! We started with Xbox getting ABK games with the intent of going exclusive after just 3 years, to Jim Ryan kicking up a fuss, justifiably in my opinion, calling it inadequate and pressuring a $1 trillion company and regulators into grilling the deal, which shockingly worked. The CMA went through the deal with a fine comb, and now Call of Duty will actually remain on PlayStation for 10 plus years. Thanks, and shout out to old Jim. But that wasn't enough for regulators. They see cloud gaming market on the rise and raise that concern, to which now Nintendo and cloud providers, Nvidia, etc., will all now get dibs on Activision. So suddenly, to appease that concern, Ubisoft will suddenly own Activision cloud licensing rights and be the dealer and price setter for Xbox's Activision cloud games. What a twist. I asked myself, was it worth it? They conceded a lot from it being as simple as it was for Bethesda, which we now see was literally to cancel PS5 exclusives and that all multiplats are now Xbox, to now PlayStation, Nintendo and Ubisoft all getting a piece of the pie. Was Xbox honest all along? Was it really about mobile? Seeing how much the deal has changed, I actually believe Xbox. I think they really do want mobile games. They see the mobile gaming market and how it dwarfs console, and they will do whatever to get a piece of that pie. What say you lot? Was all the leaks, info, concessions worth it for Activision? Or will the talent just leave when the deal passes and Activision become a shell of itself? Will this be a deal they come to regret? How will Xbox leaning more towards mobile and cloud affect the console market? Is it destined to fall back to PS versus Nintendo, or will cloud make it so Apple and mobile / portable gaming, etc. all muddy the water? Guys, Lurian's asked a massive question, an actual behemoth. I mean, first off, before we even answer this, guys, what are your thoughts on questions this long? Lurian, I personally, put a cap on it, mate. Sum it up in a couple of sentences. We know the background. Sum it up, I reckon. Short and sweet, I'm saying from here on out on inpswetrust. What say you guys?
I mean, lad, it's longer than Jim Ryan's freaking email. Well, not Jim Ryan's, Phil Spencer's freaking email. It's so big. Mate, I've read this 3 times and I still don't know if I fully understand it because it's so big. What do you mean? He's trying to give us a whole show in one question. I appreciate it. I love that you're writing in, mate. Adore it. We always love to see it. Simmer down, bro. Settle down. It's ridiculous. It's outrageous. I love it, mate. I'd love to see more, but I'd also love to see less. And if you can work that out, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, mate.
The main hot dog, he does it once again, doesn't he? He doesn't disappoint us. And when he promises to be writing in show after show, which we absolutely love because we always give you the time on the show for us to answer your questions, and we love them. So thank you very much for sending them in. But I think I agree with the lads. We probably should put a little bit of a cap on it now for future questions. This doesn't just apply to the hot dog himself. This applies to anyone writing into the show. If it can't fit in a tweet, then it's too long. Just keep it to the highlights. I think that should be our rule from now on. Okay, guys?
Tweet in length. If you want to add your own supplemental bits, your views and opinions afterwards, of course, that's great. Keep it to a tweet. So let's go through this a little bit at a time. Suppose the first thing, Jim Ryan going in and causing a fuss. Do you think that was to our benefit, or do you think it was actually just bad publicity? I suppose that's the first thing I want to know from this, because Jim Ryan actually put himself in a bit of a bad light when it comes to gamers in general, because he was like, I think Xbox, X marks the box, called him like whiny Jim or something, where he was just always kind of whining on, right, getting the regulators involved. How do you feel Jim Ryan was represented as a result of all this Activision business?
I think, to be fair, Jim Ryan, he did kick up a fuss, and he did. But I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Call of Duty, leaving PlayStation. He'd be devastated. He fought his fight and he's come out, I'm not going to say on top, because he wanted it to not go through, but he's got a good deal out of it. So I think it's worked in his favour, which means it's worked in our favour as PlayStation gamers. And I think, sure, he put himself in a bad light, but he knew what he would be losing if he didn't do that. So I think he's done alright, to be fair. I don't blame him. I'm happy. He can whine and cry. People can make fun of him. But he's got his Call of Duty for 10 plus years. So,
What about yourself, Mr. Hoy?
The way I see it, it's just a big game, isn't it? That's what we're all playing. It's the game of life at the end of the day. And I just would never, attack the man personally if you think he comes across whiny or complaining. This was targeted. This was not just him sat at home on Twitter thinking, do you know what, I'm going to give him some shit today. It wasn't that. This is all the lawyers, all the people planning this as the way to sort of almost combat this acquisition, okay? Because they've got to get involved. They're the biggest competitor. When you're out there in the market and you see your competitor moving, it's just a big game of chess. They move their pawn forward. You move your pawn forward. Then you jump over the horses. You jump over the horses. That's the way business is. And you've got to move with the times. If he did nothing, I would be screaming and shouting at him then, rather than because he's gone out and he's come across a little bit moany. Who cares? He's doing business here, and that's how business is done. He's got involved, and actually the outcome, as Spencer said, it's worked out quite well for us in the end, hasn't it? When we talk about the extra time that we're going to have with COD, perfect. Because if he hadn't have complained, we would have lost that. So this is just business happening. I would just take the man out of it and just accept that people stick their nose in each other's business. If this was on the other side, and we just made an acquisition that threatened Xbox, they would be doing exactly the same thing, guys. Let's be honest.
100%. And I completely agree with you guys. I think Jim Ryan did the right thing here. At the end of the day, what we've learned from the past is that none of these companies can be trusted with a fucking inch. You give them an inch, they take a mile. When they say, and Phil Spencer is quoted for this, and it always cracks me up, it's like, we're for the gamers. We're going to give more games to more players than ever before. And what do? Let's cancel Starfield for PlayStation. Let's cancel this for PlayStation. Doom is on the suite for Xbox games coming out in the next couple of years. Will it come to PlayStation? I'm kind of thinking it's doubtful now at this point. It's just the reality of business. And it's what I would do if I was running Xbox, is shut that shit down. Do not get it on PlayStation. But they come out and they speak to the public and say, yes, definitely coming to more players. This is a good thing for you guys. And then in a couple of years' time, it comes to fruition that actually, no, cancel that port. That was the lead development for that game? Not anymore. Now it's Xbox. Bring it over here, baby. Jim Ryan did the right thing. You've got to fight your corner. You've got to make sure that people see the impact this would have. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't be getting COD for 10 plus years. It's the fact of it. Sure, he looks like a little bitch. I'd rather have a little bitch fight my corner than no one. And that's the reality of it. So I think you're right in that one, Louis, and I think we all agree with you on that as much as, he whined and he was portrayed as whiny Jim and all this stuff, he did it for the right reasons, and it worked on our side. But Lurian's bigger question here is that with all the fine-tooth combing that's been done and how much has been stripped away from the Activision deal, from just being a case of them owning it to now them having the cloud rights kind of stripped out from under them, and having the likes of Ubisoft involved and Nintendo kind of muddying the waters, Lurian asks, was all the leaks, info, and concessions worth it for the Activision deal? Of course, we're talking about the leaks we just talked about just now with that email going out with Nintendo that we just covered, and the fact that all these different hardware revisions in the next 5 years worth of plans for Xbox have all been leaked thanks to the FTC deal. Was that worth it for Activision? Or has it been a bit of a sunk cost?
I actually think it was worth it. I really do. Because they've secured Activision now. And sure, their plan for the next 5 years is out. All this kind of, I will be honest, quite embarrassing stuff is out. Because these emails are quite embarrassing. But a few weeks, no one's going to remember the emails. And in a few years, that's the plan gone. And they'll still own Activision. So I think for now it's a bit embarrassing for them, but it'll be worth it in the end. I don't think they've really risked too much of what they've done, other than people just kind of seeing really their actual plans for gaming and the way they actually treat gamers, because it's not the way they present themselves. And I think that's it, really. But people are still going to be Xbox fanboys. No one's going to leave Xbox because of these emails. I don't think it's going to impact them too much. It's just benefited them, really.
Mr. Hoy?
Yeah, I believe, same as Spencer, completely the right choice to be acquiring this company. But I'm always very skeptical when leaks come out. You know, where does this leak come from? Why was this leak, put out? And there has been times in the past where, it's been the company themselves leaking this. I'm not saying Xbox are, but it's definitely got us talking about them a lot more, hasn't it? It's now on everybody's lips, the new Xbox that's coming out. Now, some of the stuff they're talking about with this new Xbox, it very much seems like it's going to be, the digital future of the Xbox, isn't it? With their sort of cut down Series Xbox X refresh that they're doing, the Project Brooklyn. They really focus in on like the Wi-Fi feature of it. And ultimately you're losing the disk drive, but gaining 2 terabits of hard drive space with it. Now it's all impressive. And I can see that possibly there's an area there that we found out this information and it's not such a bad thing for Xbox. I don't think people are looking at that with a negative light. I think any information like that, it always ends up perfect for the people doing it because they're benefiting from us talking about it. It gets everybody involved. And just going back to this acquisition and kind of like the position Xbox sort of find themselves now in, with the law forcing, Ubisoft to be involved with the cloud gaming side and all the water is getting muddy. Yeah, for now. When that passes and it all comes back to daddy Microsoft and Xbox, cha-ching. It's just perfect. They're in the conversation. They're now a major player in the conversation, and the future's looking very bright for them. Again, they're going to have to wait. A lot of these things that they're buying up, there is a time allocation to them, and this is one of them with cloud gaming. I'm really excited about where this goes. The Ubisoft stuff, not so much. But once Ubisoft are cut out of that deal, and it's all primarily based around Xbox, I think the timing is going to be really good for them. And I'm really excited where that one goes, Davey.
Yeah, really good points, Phil. And I don't know, I kind of disagree a little bit to a certain extent. Only because I think the long term, if we're looking at, say, the next 5 years, yes, it will be worth it for them. Because the amount of money that you're going to get from how cloud's built up, the way things are going, they are moving towards digital future. We're not quite there yet, but we are moving that way. I think like 75% of all games now are bought digital, right? So it's only going to keep going that way. That divide's only going to get higher and higher. But the immediate future-wise, this is really bad for them. Because if you were on the fence of buying an Xbox right now, why? Say you wanted to buy an Xbox Series S right now, and you really wanted to, why do it now when this is pretty much confirmed that we're going to get Black Friday sale for the Xbox Series S? Because they got a new hardware revision coming out in May. You never want a long lead time up from a revision on a console, ever. Like literally ever. Because why buy it then when you can get the brand new shiny one in a few months? So for myself, if I was interested in Starfield right now, would I buy an Xbox Series X right now? No, I would not. I would wait till I get that nice cylindrical one that comes out next year. Because it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be better with the extra terabytes and everything else. And I want one physical because I have Game Pass. That's going to fuck them. That's going to really hurt their bottom line for this next year. Because those people that have seen that, and sure, it's only the hardcore that have seen that. People like mum and dad, Jim Hoy, he walks in to go buy Phil an Xbox Series S for Christmas, and he's not going to see that. So he's just going to buy you one straight away. But anyone that's stayed up in tune with this and has thought about, maybe I'll get one, they'll see this and think, do I want a square looking ass thing, or do I want a nice cylindrical looking piece of kit? I'll wait for the cylindrical one because it's cheaper. I get more stuff with it. Potentially. It's cheaper. We don't know. This is the thing. It's definitely going to hurt the short term. But longer-wise, I don't think any of this issue when it comes to the acquisition of ABK is a bad thing for them in any way, shape, or form. You get some legendary IP. You get absolute legendary IP. You get World of Warcraft, you get Diablo, you get Call of Duty. Who the fuck wouldn't want that? I mean, those are money makers. And if they go to the part that I think they would do, if Game Pass does not move the needle with Starfield, I guarantee you, at some point in the near future, they will bundle in World of Warcraft subscription into this. I guarantee you. Because that is a way you build units and you just artificially increase the amount of Game Pass subscribers you have. It makes perfect sense. Lurians have a question which we'll come on to in a moment. It's all built around mobile gaming and how important that is. Sticking to the console side, if I was them and I was sitting on my Game Pass subscribers and there's still not at 30 million at this point with Starfield out, I would straight away be thinking about, wow, that would be my number one moneymaker. I think, right, well, how can I bundle that in and maybe even get like a discount if they got Xbox Game Pass or some kind of thing to be able to get those like 10 million odd World of Warcraft players somehow to think about getting this service. It just makes perfect sense to me. It just really does. And I know for my wife, where she's well into her World of Warcraft, she plays it all the time. She's dipped in and out of Xbox Game Pass to play a bit of Sea of Thieves or whatever it is. If there was some deal where she could get both under one unified price or pay just one amount to get it included, she would do that in a heartbeat. Definitely. I think that's where there's a huge money market. COD is a drop in the ocean. It's a huge amount of money, don't get me wrong. It ain't WoW subscriber money. And that's where I think that there's a huge amount here that it's just not put that shine of focus on WoW. Because it sure ain't the juggernaut that it used to be. But it's just got retention out the fucking wazoo. It's what every game would fucking love to have. You know, to have like 5 or 10 million active subscribers every month paying to play your game. And then buy the new expansions. Jesus Christ, PlayStation would fucking do anything for that kind of retention. No matter how much short-term pain they go through, this deal is only gonna raise their bank, as far as I'm concerned. It gives them options to raise their existing subscriber base. Now, Phil, before we dive off into the rest of Lurian's question, you're a massive WoW fan. Is anything I said there kind of out of left turn, or do you think I'm onto something there?
Well, we're going back a number of years, Davey. I only really played World of Warcraft through Vanilla and Burning Crusade, so it's been a number of years since I really even thought about World of Warcraft. But the points you bring up, it kind of does feel like a bit of a no-brainer. And I do remember logging into WoW when I've felt weak, alone, and I've just had to have my WoW fix. And it happens from time to time. I was an addict for 2 years, and I'm still recovering. Actually, probably about 4 years, and I'm still recovering. So now and again, I might dip back in. I did a bit of Mist. I did a bit of Cataclysm. And I remember when I was going in, they started advertising other games within the launcher, such as Destiny. I think that was one of the games that actually popped up within the loader. And it was the one game that sort of popped up, and it was like a non-Blizzard game. And I felt a little confused at the start, but I could see that becoming more prevalent now with the acquisition with Xbox. So they're able to advertise now to that crowd that we're talking about. I very much love the idea of bundling things. I think that's a great idea because it raises the number on both sides. So if you can come up with a WoW subscription bundle that also has PC game subscription with Xbox, perfect. I don't understand why that doesn't exist already. I really don't. I think that's a great idea, brings everybody up to the same level and encourages you to play on both sort of not platforms, but systems there. And I remember when I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft, you do need that other game just to kind of take a break from, but then you're always straight back to WoW. So ultimately the strain that maybe all those subscribers coming over to Xbox Game Pass that would put on the servers, if they're even worried about that, at the end of the day, they're Microsoft. These gamers probably wouldn't even be playing a lot of Game Pass because they love WoW. You know, 23 of their 24 hours is going to be WoW, and then 1 hour is going to be probably Game Pass. Because I didn't sleep when I played WoW. I just didn't. I just played WoW. I just loved it that much. And I'm sure your missus is the same with that. That's how we're bred when we play WoW. That's the type of game it is. And that's why you have that dedication and that retention that you're talking about. And it is a no-brainer to sort of mold those two together and give that offering to possibly move over and play a little on the Game Pass.
Spence, I know you dabbled in WoW in the past. How are you feeling about this?
Sure, very much akin with Phil, where, I mean, I played WoW for years as well. I adored it. Started at start of Kata, dropped off end of, after the expansion after MOP. Stopped playing, adored it. And very much like you said as well, you need that game on the side. Like for me, it was Solitaire. So because obviously Solitaire, single player game, you can just pause and you can play it whilst you're queuing for raids. So that was my game. That's what I used to do. It's great fun. But it makes perfect sense for it to be intertwined with Game Pass. But I feel like it'd be such a bargain having your monthly WoW subscription in there because you're paying it anyway. If it was to be the same thing where you get Game Pass with your WoW subscription or vice versa, I feel like they'd have to increase the price of one of them. And I don't know how they'd go about it. I mean, it's just weird. But I think they'd be better off doing what you said, Phil, where they started advertising other games in the launches. I think that makes a lot more sense. Or to even just, maybe now they get rid of the Blizzard launcher completely, the battle.net. It's a separate subscription, but they just all launch from Game Pass. So then you, obviously all these WoW heads that are going to play World of Warcraft are having all these Game Pass games shoved in their face at the same time. And I think that probably makes a lot more sense. And then they're not really losing the WoW money or the Game Pass money. Because if they did intertwine, they'd be losing some.
I suppose the thing is, time will tell. What they do with like the launch of the new COD, when this deal goes through, will be testament to what they choose to value. The one email that came out from this whole leak was that they were saying if they didn't hit certain like thresholds in terms of subscribers within 4 years, they'd just bow out of the consoles. And they'd just bow out of it. So it's just not worth the money to be in this race anymore. If they're trying to artificially raise their numbers, which they've done with like melding in Xbox Gold in with Game Pass to be able to try and boost that number up, if that's what their teams are like kind of targeted on in terms of Game Pass volumes, I can easily see them taking a hit on the WoW money and just doing it because that's what like their CEOs will get marked on. And as we know from working in big companies, they don't really seem to put logic too much into the equation compared to whatever makes them a bonus, right? And so I can see that being a reality that we may come to expect. But we'll wait and see. COD would be a good testing ground for this as well. So we've answered Lurian's question of will they come to regret it with a resounding no. Lurian's asking in this question is the main point of them going towards mobile? And will it be a case of them focusing on the mobile and the cloud have an impact on the console fan bases in terms of will it affect Nintendo and PlayStation, and will it be a Nintendo PlayStation future going forward if all they're focusing on is their kind of mobile and cloud? And I suppose that's the final piece of this that will solve Lurian's massive question. Spence, coming over to you.
Sure, okay. So I think them leaning more towards mobile and cloud, it makes sense, obviously. I think it's smart, especially with what Apple are showing at the minute. Because Apple are trying to show off the game that can't be mentioned, 4 and Village. You can play on iPad and iPhone now, which is wild. You can play bloody Death Stranding on there. Wild. And it's just the technology is getting to a point on mobile phones where soon they might just have all of Game Pass on there and you don't even need to stream it. You could just download them to your phone. It's getting to a point where it's insane. But ultimately, I really don't think it will affect console. Because as much as playing games on your phone is fun, it's not quite the same as sitting down with a DualSense in your hands and smoking some kids on COD. It is not the same. I do not think it will impact it too much, maybe a little bit. But really, it's smart for them to do because the market on mobile is ridiculous. Actually ridiculous how much money mobile gaming makes. And that's why Square Enix tried jumping in with the FF7 Battle Royale. That's why so many people have got mobile ports. They said Dead by Daylight mobile game, PUBG mobile game, Call of Duty mobile. everything has mobile versions now. It makes sense. Honestly, Xbox, just quit and just make mobile games. You'd make a killing. You'd make so much more than you're making right now. And you wouldn't have to make a single product. You just keep making games rather than consoles. You'd make so much money. Yo, do it. Get your studios, get Activision on a mobile game. Get them on mobile games, man. You'd make bank. You'd make so much money. Do it.
Well, this is the thing. I think all of it stems back to the fact that as part of this Activision deal, obviously they own King. And King just are a money printing machine, right? Absolute money printing machine. I think that everyone wants to get a piece of the mobile market. And if you're going to buy a piece of the mobile market, you want King. Because they just print money, right? They really do. It's insane. How much their market value has gone up since Activision originally bought them is insane. I think they've gone up like 100 million or 100 billion. It's something insane. It's some insane number. I think they were bought for like 5 million. And now they're worth like 155 million or something insane that came from this FTC leaks. Regardless, I think it's a great place for them. I don't think, as much as they may say that it's their main driver, I don't agree with it. I really don't think it is. It's a market that's a nice supplemental market that you want to be involved in. I don't think you're really going to grow too much in the mobile space. I think if you've got someone like King or like Call of Duty Mobile or any of these like Fortnite, whatever it is, you make absolute bank. You really are. I don't think it's a growth area. I think the cloud stuff from your question, Lurian, is more the bigger thing. That's more looking at the future. And I think that is the area where they're being very smart with this. The way Xbox Game Pass works, with the new controller they've shown and everything else, where it's just got that auto sync, so you can connect up to your Samsung TV, you can connect up to any device you want, and it just works. That's where I see Xbox moving to in the future. Do I think they're going to exit the console race to be able to pursue this? Potentially. They might do. And it just becomes a service. I can quite happily see that. I really can. Especially now they're dabbling in that with an all-digital console. It's kind of a step in that direction that in 5-10 years' time, you don't need a console. Now it's just an app. And you connect your phone to it. And maybe they sort out the different issues that you have with latency. And it just works fine. I think there will always be a market for consoles. I really do. People have been saying consoles are dying for 20 years now. PS3, I remember PS3 especially, be a time where they were saying there's no need for them anymore. Now it's all on PC. PC's the big thing. And PC ended up having a decline and consoles ended up rising because you had the likes of the Switch, the PS3, the Xbox 360, fantastic generation. That's never come to pass. I don't think it ever will because people will always be purists and they want to ensure there's no latency. You think about when you go now to a fighting game tournament, everyone's got it all tethered in. It's all tethered in. All our connections at home, all tethered in. No one on Wi-Fi. It's just the way it is. I don't think it will ever get to a point where it's just fully like that with gaming because that fact of a slight bit of latency is enough for people to spend hundreds of pounds or thousands of pounds on a brand new monitor so they don't get like 1 millisecond delay, right? I don't think it will ever become the acceptable norm that everyone adheres to for streaming. But who knows? 20 years down the line, maybe it is. And maybe I'm just not being futuristic enough. In answer to your question, I don't think it's their main priority, but it's future-proofing themselves, and it's a smart business play. What about yourself, Phil?
I do agree with you there, Davey. I don't think this is their major focus. Xbox aren't going to stop making consoles. But what I do think they're doing is just getting themselves involved in the right conversations. When we've been talking about cloud, now we're talking about mobile. They're just getting their names in the right places and they're playing that game of chess, as I talked about earlier. They're lining them up for whatever moves the opposition's going to make and they're bolstering their resources there, aren't they? Now, I listen to the Xbox Marks the Box show, our sort of sister show, if you like. And they're always talking about new Xbox handhelds and how that future looks. And I'm pretty sure within the leaks there was some sort of hints towards the possibility of an Xbox handset coming out that would be sort of a mobile handset. And that sort of lends itself to the future that we're seeing unfolding with how Spencer correctly identified Apple. They're really putting their money down in that area. They're upgrading the phones to a sort of extent that you can play AAAs on. You can play the games that cannot be mentioned. Death Stranding, my favourites. As soon as that got announced, everyone was messaging me saying, now you can go and buy it on another platform. And I'd have to buy the top of the range phone to be able to do that. But we're at that point now that we've all been dreaming of for years and years and years. You know, console guys, you'd always want to take your Nintendo away with you. You'd always want to take your PlayStation away with you. I remember the PlayStation 1 had a little flip-up screen and you could pop it into your car as your parents are driving along and play PS1 in the back. You could be playing Tekken. Incredible, on the move. But now that reality is starting to come through. And we're seeing the right people putting their money where their mouth is and backing that up with some real highlights. Now, I love my mobile gaming. Outside my Switch, I play the Steam Deck. I've got an Analog Pocket. I've just bought a Mini Mu Plus, an absolute epic console where you can load all the old ROMs and play everything from the back catalogue. So I'm a big subscriber to this sort of area of technology, and I'm keeping a close eye on everything that's going on. So I would welcome Xbox getting involved in this future, and I'd love to see what they would do with it. And possibly I might become a Game Pass subscriber if I could take it everywhere and get that same level of experience. Now, do I think it's going to affect consoles negatively? I don't, not at all. I think it's positive. I really do. Because the more hands, the more eyes you get on these fabulous experiences, the better. And as Spencer identified, the mobile market is huge. And bringing those people in that just play exclusively mobile now and seeing what they could be doing on console, where actually the experience you've just get on a bigger screen at home, that's perfect. That's perfect marketing, isn't it? You're just marketing to a much bigger crowd and you're bringing it in. So I can completely agree on all that.
Lurian, we have gone over and above on your question. I really hope you feel we've answered it. Audience, if you want to be involved in the show, the best way of doing it, writing into the email, pswetrust@gmail.com, or reaching out to us on Twitter. Of course, our Twitter handle, @inpswetrust. And remember, from episode 77, keep it to a tweet, please.